Recording in progress.
I always wish the computer would find a way not to say that out loud. All right, let's come onto our back bodies if you're not already there. I'm going to invite you to first just like kind of wiggle it out, to start to move around, pressing perhaps through one arm over your head, rolling wrists, reaching through heels, pointing toes, taking your head one way and taking your head the other way. When you feel complete with that, I'm going to ask you to do 3 really big inhales, each with an exhale, sigh. So inhale, whatever shape you want. Maybe you're reaching, maybe you're just relaxed. We know that this sighing helps calm the amygdala, the alarm center in our brain. It says you are whole, you are well, you are safe. I think it also does a marvelous job of telling us that in this moment, there's nothing you need to know, figure out, do, or accomplish. Just here, your body, your breath. So please find a comfortable shape where we'll tune into our breath. I'm going to invite you to come into the 3 points of introversion. Turning the gaze up and in. It's as if you're looking between the eyebrows or a little higher, third eye. And actually, before I have you add the tongue positioning, let's come into lion stretch. A few exhales, big inhale, watching where it travels, where it touches you. Exhale, opening the jaw as wide as you can, like you're screaming or whatever sound you want to imagine, but keep that jaw open and stretched until you're ready to relax with that next inhale. This can really help release the base of the skull as well. Lovely. And when you feel complete, you might swallow, lightly connect the tip of the tongue at the roof of the mouth. The rest of the tongue soft. A spaciousness between the molars. You might even imagine that there's something delicate in the mouth that you don't want to squish. A little flower bud or something precious. What would happen if you smiled softly around that? Not something anyone could see. Maybe it's just a moment of appreciation for the incredible body that you're in, its resilience, your own heart. And with here, you might add your ujjayi, great sounding breath, slight contraction of the throat. So the breath passes through, making the whooshing sound like trees, waves. What are you noticing? What's it like to be you today? Over the next couple of breaths, inviting you to maintain as many of those points of awareness as you can. Inward gaze, light connection of the tongue, ujjayi, and to begin rolling your head side to side. It might evolve from just gentle movements to taking the face as far one direction as you can and exploring breath in that shape. Sometimes it'll connect us with the areas around the shoulder blades or that SCM, sternocleidomastoid, up the side of the neck. And of course, comparing the 2 sides. And then at some point, bringing the head back to center, actively, vigorously reaching your chin as far back as you can so that you're quite intensively shortening the back of the neck. And at some point, bringing the chin as close into your throat as you can. The head stays on the floor. It's as if you're trying to press the top of your head towards the wall behind. Sometimes when I've got my chin in the up and back position, I like to take the head a little side to side and feel that stretch move. And coming back to neutral when you're ready, and this is always in your timing, right? I'm just providing a framework. We're gonna come into compression and expansion, which most of you guys know I made up. But it's a simplified version of 3-part breathing or Dirga Pranayama. And this is my favorite place to get deep, intensive breath, connect with core while remaining soft in those neck muscles, etc. So the next time you're exhaling, slowly, firmly, draw the belly towards the spine towards the floor, emptying, emptying, emptying. Is there more? I bet there's more to squeeze out like an old air mattress. When there's nothing left, relax. Allow yourself to be bereaved. That's a wonderful moment, because in that moment we're reminded we don't have to do everything. In this case, the universe is breathing us. All we had to do was create a vacuum. So slow emptying, creating your vacuum. You should feel your pubic bone tilt up as you anchor the low back into the floor. Great time to practice the neck softening, jaw softening. Emptying, 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 emptying. You might even squeeze your ribs in towards the center body. As we continue in this cycle for a little while longer, I hope you'll enjoy kind of the mystery of that inhale breath wave. Watching its pace, where it touches you. At the very upper end of that, please sip in a little extra. And I'm hoping you'll feel it move up into the clavicle. Scanning for unnecessary tension in the tongue, jaw, eyes, maybe somewhere funky. We've all got our weird tensioning habits. This powerful pranayama practice can replace sleep and rest beautifully. They say about 10 minutes of focused breath work replaces about an hour of lost sleep. So this beautiful intake of fresh oxygen, that emptying of all the stale breath can be so restorative. And I invite you to add on, again, if that feels appropriate. You're going to keep with compression exhales. Then as you begin, you add rock pose. So you're tightening every muscle in the body, hands into fists, shoulder head slide down, arms into sides, butt cheeks, thighs. You might be flexing, curling, pointing, even scrunching up your face. Is there more? On the inhale, you might relax or sweep arms overhead and enjoy that breath wave in this shape. Maybe you're inspired to turn that rock pose into a sit-up motion. If so, it should feel natural, just a natural outcome of the powerful downward intensive of the core. Asking, is there more? See if you can find those last whispers of breath, both exhale and inhale. That is the treasure. Last one. And then as you come out, I invite you inhaling, sweeping arms overhead. Beautiful. Clasping one hand around one wrist and drawing along upon it. Again, always taking your head where it feels easeful for the neck, switching. And releasing the arms, clasping the right knee into your belly, release wind pose. Heels are flexed. Again, check your shoulders and neck. We'd love to be in what I call no wings, no shrugs. Elbows coming in, shoulders sliding down. Reaching as far as you can from heel to heel. So you're really activating and reaching them apart. Wiggling that knee a little side to side. And if it feels appropriate, taking a hold of your foot with your left hand and kind of just crossing that foot towards your hip bone. It's like a little kind of reclined pigeon pose or something. And while you're there, you can kind of hug that leg, both knee and foot in your hand, and kind of swing it a little side to side. Just getting some nice WD-40 in that hip joint. You got it. On a long inhale, extend the right leg, heel flex straight up to the sky. Complete the inhale. On the exhale, anchor the low back and slowly descend that leg as if you're trying to draw a line on this front wall. What is your neck when you're doing this? If you're kind of a chronic neck tightener shrugger like me, you may have to check yourself every time. Sometimes I feel like sighing in between those engaged poses. Let's bring the left knee into the belly, release when it comes. And heels are flexed, no wings, no shrugs, maybe a soft smile because you got to the mat. Yeah. Maybe you want to wiggle that knee side to side at some point, perhaps clasping the foot with your right hand, using that to create some fun angles. Remember, breathing in deeply in any of these shapes really brings massage to spaces that we could never touch with our hands. On a long inhalation, extending the legs straight up to the sky. Exhaling, rooting and descending and practicing softening in the neck, the tongue, the eyes. Come into abdominal pumping, world's best massage from the inside. Inhaling slow, deep, and wide as if it's all you'd ever do. Exhale, empty, and hold out. External breath block. And begin, draw the abdomen in and push out. Draw in and press out. This is all without breathing until you need to. Yeah, and we'll do a couple more rounds of, I love playing with the pacing. I actually find that slowly gets me more intensive sensation. I'll kind of slowly draw in and then try to draw in more or push out and press out more. A couple more rounds. That's all complete. Bringing both knees into the belly. Nice deep hug. We're going to take it into spinal twist, and people have really different, preferences for the spinal twist. Some people prefer a single knee down twist. I prefer embryo because I feel like it stabilizes my back better, and I actually end up getting better stretch through my shoulders. So let's go to our right side. We have enough space in here. It's not like we're going to hit each other anyway. But coming to your right side, if you're doing embryo pose, try to have both knees straight forward of those hip joints, feet flexed. If you're wanting more twist, you can always slide your right shoulder a little to the right, so you're coming more on the blade and less on the deltoid. On your inhale, reaching slowly open through that top arm, perhaps following with your head. On your exhale, returning to embryo pose, and I invite you to go in and out a few times. Again, we're kind of lubricating all those connections, right? All that fascia down the intercostals and ribs and into the pectoral areas. So at some point you might be like, oh, I'm ready to hold open in the twist. Then I invite you to explore sweeping the arm up by the ear and then back out behind you. So kind of a quarter of a pie shape. Sometimes when I bring it in towards my ear, I like to rotate the head even further away from the arm, kind of deepening the side body stretch. Sometimes when my arm is straight out behind, I like pointing and flexing through the palm. It's kind of part of that nerve flossing that I've been sharing with you guys. This is one more way to get into nerve flossing and opening up those nerve lines, lubricating the system. Would it feel good to you to extend that top leg out in front of you? If so, I encourage you to take your floor hand, just kind of prop the elbow, and that way you're going to keep your leg at the right height, which is straight forward to the hip joint. Yeah, you can prop it up on your block. Love that. This is a really great stretch. If you got a good edge, you'll get into those IT bands, hip joints. I love that. Again, it's those places that are really hard to massage or connect with. When you're complete, you might return to embryo pose for a couple of integrating moments before you choose to rotate open on your other side. They say about spinal twists that they can help reconnect our pieces of self, integrate. And you know, I kind of took that at just face value when I was told that at Kripalu where we trained. But I more recently thought about why, and I'm like, I think it's because it helps kind of stabilize and recalibrate our vagus nerve. That just this beautiful twisting motion combined with the deep breath. So I remind you at some point when you are in your held stretch, try to bring the inhale in past the twist, past the resistance of the twist. I hope it lifts your arm off the floor or further away from the floor. We don't care if our arm ever gets to the floor. We actually want to just keep the legs stabilized and anchored. And if it feels all right in your body, you might extend that top leg. Is this side different? What's knowable? And I feel like the body's always ready to reveal things to us, but we often have to be in a state of enough listening to hear it. You know, there's so much static in life off the mat, just in our own thinking, much less the world. It's hard to hear signals that are subtle. So this is a beautiful place to start that kind of subtle dialogue. Now, when you feel complete, again, you might move to embryo pose for some integrating moments, and then we'll be coming onto our back and placing our feet for bridge pose with the block in between. So we're gonna do a little exploration before we go into bridge pose full on. I have the block in between as a way to ignite that whole inner thigh pelvic floor, which tends to be kind of weak on us modern humans, that whole area. So you might work your shoulder blades a little in towards, you get a little shoulder blade sandwich. I don't recommend adding a mudra in this kind of next little cycle that we're gonna do. So just get a nice spaciousness for that cervical spine. Inhale, slowly deep and wide, because it's all you'd ever do. Exhale, think belly to spine, spine to floor, but don't lift the hips. Squeeze the block. And just notice what's igniting, what's awake here. Of course, asking, is there more? And then when there is no more, relax. Allow the rest of the inhale. And of course, exhale, belly to spine, spine to floor, squeeze the block. And what I'm hoping you're feeling is deep work, inner thigh, pelvic floor, and that low belly, what I call the robot belly. I'm also hoping you're feeling that kind of natural impetus then to have the hips come off the floor. If that's happening, the next time, go for it. Same way of initiating. And then we're going to be coming in and out of bridge. So it'll be exhaling, rising, inhaling, descending the hips as slowly as you can. It's like a one rib at a time movement. Make sure you, again, stay for the fullness of the inhale before you move to the next segment. I think sometimes we think, we get so into the movements we're doing that we make the breath secondary, and it should really be breath initiating motion. You guys look awesome, and I'm hearing some nice ujjayi, relaxed faces. When your hips are up, if you feel any pressure in the neck, play with tilting the chin up and back a little. That'll restore that spinal curve, create less torque. The next time we're up, I'm going to invite you to add foot covering, and so you might want to take the block out for this. A lot of people don't love it for this position. Coming up into your bridge, as you've been doing, belly to spine. And once they're holding, I usually put my hands on my hip bones as kind of a measuring awareness tool, and I work my shoulder blades in a little more to reduce spine pressure. Then lifting one foot at a time, just an inch or two, just hovering off the floor, giving you a chance to notice, is the hip dropping? If so, can you talk to the standing leg and butt to stabilize? Can you relax your neck more than you are? I find it very difficult in this pose. It's harder on one side. That kind of old accident injury, that SCM side of the neck wants to fire up. When that's complete, inviting you in a nice deep stretch of a happy baby. So bring those knees wide and towards you and towards the floor, using either a clasp of the big toe, blade of the feet, a strap across the arches, if you prefer ankles. I just find I can't get enough kind of power with the ankles to really get the stretch that I'm creating in the hips. Once you're there, think about shoulders, make sure they're not shrugging. There's a lot of shrug. And then anchoring your tailbone towards the floor. And what happens when you actively send breath into this shape? Again, my experience is you get a massage that you cannot get any other way. Would it feel good from here to go into half straddle? My version of this, I love because it doesn't take any neck tension happening or make any neck tension happen, and that is that I just fold both of my heels towards the butt. I anchor my upper arms, and my hands are just kind of right at the back of the thigh, so that as I extend a leg, I'm kind of supporting it a little bit with the hand as needed or guiding it, but it's not requiring any neck or shoulder effort. And switching, and if you're kind of just letting that whole heavy leg go to the side, it might make you want to roll a little bit, and that can be great. A little mini spinal twist. And if it would feel good in your body, bring those heels together, butterfly, with or without a strap, with or without the little sort of windshield wipers, I think of it, bringing one heel towards your chest, kind of up the center line. You can always add a sit-up if you like that. Or again, maybe let it even roll you side to side. Lovely. We're going to come into bridge and inviting you to hold for anywhere from 3 to 6 breaths. Take your time. Imagine the block between the thighs. So you maybe aren't using it here, although you could, but you're still creating that inner thigh action. If you're adding yoga mudra, that intertwining of the hands behind the back, continue to work the shoulder blades towards each other, the pinkies towards the floor. And most importantly of all, invite that big inhale into the ribs. Bring your ribs as high away from the floor as you can. And you feel complete. Nice slow release, knees to belly. Now we're going to come into our robot from here, and I'm going to ask everyone, even if you're really familiar with it, to promise me to do one round in the smallest movement, which is what I'll be guiding initially, and then I'll give you options of how to add on it. So your knees are into your belly. You're going to flex your feet, legs are parallel but not touching. When you're ready, I want you to do that big inhale, big exhale, anchor the low back. Hold that anchoring as you slowly take your knees away from you until you sense that they're directly above the hip joints. At this position, it should be work to keep the back rooted, but doable work. And you want to talk to those low abdominal muscles. For starters, we'll just take the hands on the thighs just above the knee joints. Inhale, slow, deep, and wide. You can always relax on the inhale anytime you want. Exhale, anchoring back. Slowly take one knee about 3 inches away from your hand and hold and breathe. So training ourselves to use the abdominal muscles even as we allow them to stretch with breath. It's kind of a weird thing. It's awesome. Let's come back to that neutral position to explore the other side. And again, if you need to relax completely on the inhale, go for it. Exhale, reroot. Take that other knee about 3-4 inches forward. Hold. Scan. Did you lose any of your anchoring in the low back? Did you take on unnecessary neck tension? Let's start to neutral again. Again, break anytime you want. If you're finding wow, I am tending to let my low back lift even a little, then just stick with this version so you can be more aware. If you want to add arms, they're straight up to the sky. Again, back anchors, and as you take one knee away from you, invitation to reach the other arm straight back. Karate chop straight. You're not trying to touch the floor. The wall is your goal, your destination. And return. Other side, other knee moving away, opposite arm if you're using that. And this is what I call breathing in flight. In other words, I'm holding the active pose and I'm choosing to breathe inside of it. The simplified version of the robot, people will simply move on the exhale into the position and then on the inhale return to the starting position. It's usually a thing that I find feels spiced to be really powerful. And then just keeping your knees dead 90. So this is kind of a weird one. You don't straighten the knee at all. You're just like a robot. So that's your start right there. And you just hinge at the hip. You're like frozen through the knee joint. Right there. And the reason for 2 weeks when I started learning this, I practiced with my hands on my thigh, was because if I started using my arms, I would start moving the stationary leg towards me, because that's the body's natural way to compensate. What we're trying to do is isolate those low belly muscles and make them work, and to be able to notice if we're doing something funky. That's probably about enough of that, I'm thinking. Yeah, you might briefly want to go into a bridge pose just to stretch your body the other way, if that feels good. Otherwise, join me coming onto hands and knees. We're going to find the oh so simple and oh so beloved cow cat. Intelligent hands, inhaling, tailbone tilts back, heart draws forward. Is there more? Exhaling, tuck the tailbone, let that head hang. You might even kind of take your head a little left and right. One of my favorite add-ons as you move into your next cat back could be sending your ribs to the left and looking out over your right shoulder, and vice versa, ribs right, left shoulder looking. And then we'll come into our first downward facing dog of the morning. At least I'm assuming none of you did downward facing dog earlier, but I can run. As you're ready, nice, curl those toes under. Knees stay bent, please, at least in the beginning, maybe forever. Wiggle those hips to the sky as you anchor firmly through that inner line of the hand. And we'll do a few deep breaths here, really letting the inhale influence you. So come out of your deepest pose, get big, greedy inhale, exhale, belly to spine. Think about that low robot belly. Imagine it like a harness that you can use to pull the hips up and back. You almost don't need your arms, and you might test it by just lifting one hand at a time to see, like, am I stable? Am I lifted by my harness? Yes, it's far. We're gonna come to our belly. If you wanna do a little plank to chaturanga on the way, I often recommend knees down for the first one of the day so you can see how your shoulders feel about all that. And then resting on our forehead, invitation to bring hands behind in yoga mudra. So your palms are facing each other, you're intertwining the fingers with each other if you can. And if you go to straighten your arms here and it's not working, you might add a strap or a sock or something to give you a few inches leeway. And as you're anchoring your pelvis, you might enjoy raising the hands off of the butt and returning. So that little pumping helps create some nice movement around the blade and trapezius connections. Yeah. How about a nice resting breath? Maybe just turn the head to the side when you feel complete. We're going to bring our arms out 90 degrees into what I think of as the pelican flight position. So arms are straight out from the body, palms flat. Shoulder head circle down and back, and resting on your forehead or whatever's comfortable for you. Just raise the arms off the floor, keeping the head connected for now. using the pelvis connection as much as needed so your low back's happy. We're gonna breathe here for maybe another 3 breaths, just holding. And often this will bring some heat to kind of the deltoids and the back of the upper back. One more big inhale and then exhale, just relax those wings. Marvelous. Gonna bring us into a quadricep stretch. And there's the kind of classic way of doing it, just resting right here on the forehead, anchoring the pelvis and reaching back. Some people really enjoyed the version I shared a couple weeks ago where you rolled onto your side and grabbed there. Some people find that easier access. And I learned this actually from one of our yogis, that this works for her when laying on her belly doesn't. So nice to know we have options. Wherever you are, we're still going to squeeze those glutes because that's going to support the low back. Bringing the bent knee back and in towards the straight leg. And breathing. See if you can get the breath stretch to communicate higher and lower. And when you feel ready, you'll switch. Sometimes I need to kick it out in between. It feels like it just releases nicely. And of course, there's always the standing version of this as well. Is this side different? And those of you who have an enjoyment for bow pose, inviting you to go there before we all press back child's pose. If you're not a lover of bow pose, we'll meet you in child's pose. Bow pose is where you're then clasping both ankles, pressing the ankles into the hands, and allowing that to peel your chest up off the floor. And I love the stretch through the diaphragm, although it's really challenging to breathe here. Make sure to keep bringing your thighs towards each other so they're straight back from those hip joints. You won't be able to go as high in the pose, but again, we don't care about that. All right, release, nice core support as you press back child's pose, taking those knees wide. Swinging those hips a little side to side, shoulders, take the arms wherever you need to. And please use this pose as a reconnection with breath and curiosity. What's going on in the body? What's it feel like to be you? I did this shoulder tractioning last week. I want to do it again because I know some of you weren't here, but also I find it interesting to kind of compare and see if it's changed for you at all. So as you're ready, nice core support to come up onto hands and knees, table pose once more. And I found that in this tractioning we're about to do, if people aren't feeling the effects, it's usually that they've got too much space between hands and knees, so make sure you're not in an acute angle. Shoulder heads anchor, and the whole time we're going to be in core support. And that means like here, I should be able to clap. I'm not hanging on the joints, I'm not collapsed. As you're ready, we're going to come down to one forearm, and if you can, place it just a little inside of where your hand was. Don't try and go all the way center, just a little towards center. You're going to inhale, and on your exhale, you're going to power down through that forearm and also draw back. You're not moving it, but you're powering, right? And as I'm doing that tractioning, I'm going to send the hips back towards the heels. And then inhaling, return to that starting position and continue on that side for maybe half a dozen rounds. Stay soft in the tongue, the neck. If you're not getting any sensation at all, I would then create a little more space between your arm and your knee. And you guys are doing a great job. I would stay on the palm of the other hand versus letting it come down. Some of you have your other forearm flat on the floor. And what I find, and if you prefer it, no problem, but I find if I stay up on my palm, almost like one side's in a little push-up position and the other side is doing the traction, that I actually get a better experience. One of my favorite things is to hold in the back position and take an inhale there, right? So you create your edge, then you breathe into it. Are you guys getting some good stuff? Yeah, good. This is amazing for helping evolve the tension in what I think of as the silent partners for the shoulder joint, all into the lat, intercostals, the deep shoulder line, which is actually in your armpit. It's not that deltoid that we think about. Of course, when you're ready, let's switch. Please speak up if you have any questions or if it's just not working for you. I wanna know. This is again one of those that can be really hard to stay relaxed in the neck. That's why I put relaxing music on. Nothing hardcore. Again, no striving. We're just isolating and creating some good stuff, I hope, for that shoulder. Is this side different? And that feels like you're like, hey, I've had enough of this. I'm gonna invite you once more, come to your abdomen, and we're gonna do a little jet airplane flight. So our palms are facing the floor, but this time the arms are just a little closer in. I don't mean that the hands are touching, just there's that nice kind of maybe 45-degree angle. Pelvis anchors, pubic bone and hip bones, shoulder head circle as far away from the floor and down as they can. And when you're ready, let your flight begin. Inhaling. It might just be the arms, it might also be the chest. Maybe you like adding legs right away. I usually wait and add legs later because sometimes my back doesn't like it. So it's just a bit of an experiment. And you might come in and out a few times. Would it feel good to hold in flight and then sweep one arm forward and one arm back? Kind of a reach and counter reach. Just notice when you feel complete, either releasing to the belly or child's pose, whatever your body's craving. If you're on your belly, some people like adding a little windshield wiper for the lower leg or just a nice hip rock. So it's interesting, this hip rocking movement also is said to be helpful for mood. And again, I think it's because of the vagus nerve connection. So we're gonna come from here into, one of our favorite postures. I know you share that affection as well for forearm plank. Janelle guessed it, yes. And here's our biggest task always, to be in it in a super peaceful way. So before you even press into your pose, I want you to start off on your forearms if you're coming from your belly. Soften the mouth, maybe soft smile, check that neck. And then if you're ready, come into your version. I usually start on knees to just check all those things. Then perhaps coming to feet. And can you breathe while doing this? Blossom your inhale into your upper back, into your low belly. Things that you didn't think you could relax while being powerful, but I know you can. You guys look good. If you're on your feet, remember to imagine squeezing a block between the thighs. That can make all the difference. And if you've got 1, 2, or 3 more breaths in integrity, great. When you're complete, come out again, notice, is it belly or child's pose it's calling? It's so great to find ways to be powerful and peaceful. I'm going to invite us in one more round of forearm plank and inviting you to just consider, do you want to intensify it, create some kind of more challenge for the body and how it holds you. One great way to do that is once you're in the pose is to just release one foot at a time, reaching for the wall behind you. You could also bring one leg into frog. I recommend doing that slowly, holding through the exhale before returning on the inhale. And when you're doing either of those poses, nothing should change. It's really important that that other leg or foot doesn't rotate out or it'll put pressure on your back. It'll make you feel weak, but you're not. And you are complete here, releasing to the belly. Much for rest and breath. This moment, this body, this breath. In your own time, making your journey to downward facing dog. For some of you, it might be a really gentle Vietnamese, otherwise you might almost do like a little push-up and press back. So many ways to arrive there. And actually, let's take our feet wide. We'll do a little bear pose. So you can take your feet and hands wider, kind of right out to the edges of the mat. Nice deep knee bend. So it's almost like I'm trying to put my chest on my thighs. And then if you would, take your hips to the right, keeping deeply rooted through both hands. And then take the hips to the left. You might explore that a couple more times, noticing that if you kind of work your heel towards the floor of the kind of straightening leg, there can be some pretty fun stretches. And we're going to release down to both knees. Got it. We're going to just slowly do some circling. And this is just organic, so I want you to kind of notice what it's like to take the hips back and around. And again, the shoulder, you might be dipping through the chest. And as you're ready, coming back into your bear, and I want you to check first, please, your shoulder heads. And we want them rotating open away from the ears because we're going to be hopping. And I want to make sure that you're not taking it on in your neck. So when you're ready, just hop and see if you can kick your butt. It's almost like a little leapfrog movement, right? Yes, fun. See if you're shrugging or tightening your neck when you're doing this. And if you cannot do that, it'd be great. See if you got one more. Woo. And then slowly walk the hands back towards the feet, settling in a nice fold here with the legs wide. And then take the hips organically side to side here. A nice stretch through the low back. If you enjoy Yoga Mudra and you find that fruitful, this is another nice position to do it in. And you can add a strap. You can change things up by doing non-dominant hand clasps. So if I just automatically intertwine, my left thumb is on top. So if I re-intertwine so my right thumb is on top, it feels awkward, and that means I need it. And again, make sure you're pressing your fists away from the chest. You might do a slow pumping, nothing fast ever. And when you come out, you might just release those arms, let them sweep forward and sit the butt into a squat. You might need to angle your toes a little differently to feel comfortable through your joints. So make that adjustment. Let's do a few breaths here. You might rise and settle with that breath wave. Would it feel good to come onto the balls of the feet? And sometimes when I'm doing this, I like to bring my index finger and thumb together and then bring those right out to the side, kind of anchoring the other fingers towards each other. Light connection, tip of the tongue. Hello, thighs. On a long inhale, root and rise, big glute squeeze forward, exhaling and fold. Empty, empty, use that core. Inhaling, a nice little kind of cow back, reaching forward. Exhaling, a little cat back, and with that strength, if you like, jump the feet back. Otherwise, gently step them back. Remember to find that harness we've been working with, and we're going to slowly send the right leg flying. If that is too much, please do this in table instead. Good. Bend that right knee and do not let those ribs collapse towards the floor. I want that powerful front coming in. See if you can open that right hip. Ah. Lovely. Slowly bring that right foot forward. And I'm going to invite you to move back and forth from foot to foot, just sort of exploring. And then with big core support, as always, launch that back foot and fold towards your standing leg. Now, you don't have to have your standing leg straight, but I love the flying leg straight. Lots of intention. We're going to hold here and do another deep breath. Then lower that back foot for warrior one. Make sure you steer that right hip bone back a little bit and come on up. Make any adjustments to your stance until you feel peaceful. If you prefer crescent lunge on the ball of the foot, you could do that. I'm going to ask you, where do your arms want to be today in this pose? Up, out, prayer pose, what feels powerful and peaceful? I'm going to have you add just a little bit of traction with your feet. Kind of imagine that you're stretching your mat and also trying to shorten it a little bit. Just see if you can find a sense of engagement up into that inner thigh. On a long inhale, sending the gaze and maybe the chest up a little bit. Exhaling, we're going to launch into our downward dog with this right leg flying again. Again, if this becomes too much, go to your table work. I'm going to give you an invitation here to do a little spinal twist. This is a powerful twist. So you're going to bring that right foot forward again, that same foot you were just working with. Got it. You're going to come up. I like to start with my hands on my thighs because it puts me in a little more of just intention, and I'm in my core, I'm not in collapse. Because I'm going to rotate to the right and reach forward through my left arm for starters. Now, just breathe there and notice how the inhale wants room. If you feel like it, you can cross your elbow onto the thigh. So you take that same arm that was reaching, you bring it in. Now it's harder to get the inhale, but trying to gives us a great stretch, right? Maybe you place the other hand on palm in prayer. See if you've got 1, 2, or 3 more breaths with integrity in your body. Check the neck, the tongue. You guys look amazing. When you release, invitation, core support, downward facing dog, where I invite you to either hold, find a resting pose, or flow, which could be cow-cat or dog series, for example. Inhaling to your flank. You might pop to check that you're really in that core. Exhaling chaturanga, chest should arrive before the hips. No hip collapse. Cobra with hips on the floor, or I like going from there, sometimes 2 upward facing dog. Exhaling, downward facing dog. Drishti gaze between the feet. And when you're ready for the other side, join me. We'll take the left leg fly. Nothing should change. No shoulder movement, no collapse. Bend that left knee, open that hip. You're reaching your left knee as far away from your right foot as you can. Slowly neutral those hips. Bring that foot forward. Remember, if you're not getting that foot forward and it's not under the knee yet, grab your ankle and hoist it forward. All right, and then begin your journey. Forward and back. Breathing. Tons of core support. So that when you launch, it really feels like easy flat. Launch that back leg. Fold your torso towards the standing. Breathe. So just like compression, exhale, and expansion, inhale, but a different shape. Slowly land that back foot, warrior one. Again, make adjustments. You know, you might feel like you're too much on a balance beam or something like that. And if you feel like you're just getting too much of a stretch, remember, you just shorten the stance a little bit. Power and peace. Sometimes it feels good to be still. Other times you might feel like slicing the arms or moving them in some way. A long inhale, make sure those ribs are going forward and up. Back bend. Exhaling, downward facing dog. Invitation to hold, rest, or flow. If you're doing dog series, notice what it felt like last time. And if you felt like, gosh, it just felt hard, or you felt weak, or you were swagging, definitely do knees down. Beautiful, powerful, peaceful. Okay, and as you're ready, we're gonna bring that same foot forward for the twist. I kind of rearranged these things apparently, but thanks for going with me. Bring that same left foot forward. Again, I like to come up and check that I'm in my core. I don't need to be on that knee at all. And then reaching that right arm forward and breathing there. Really let the inhale pulse. When you're rotating, try not to go left of center. Try to keep the head and the arm and everything just straight forward. You got it. If you want to come elbow to thigh, go for it. Perhaps hands in prayer. And for this, I find it much easier to be on the ball of the back foot. So if you've still got your back foot flat, see if rotating that heel up and out feels better. Let the breath have room. And then you'll find the exhale does too. It's so cool. And as you're ready, release. I'm going to ask you to notice, what is your body craving right now? You know, maybe it wants another dog series, even though I slipped one in on your. Maybe you're like, you know, I'm feeling so in my core. I want to go and hang out in crow pose for a few moments because I'm fluid and strong enough to go for that today. If any of you are wanting to play with that, reminder, it can be really wrist intensive, but it can be fun. And I can talk through that. Everyone has a different way of getting into crow. So I always find that kind of fascinating. Beautiful. When we attend to breath, it changes everything. What is your body craving in this exact moment? And I wish we could just get better at asking that question in life off the mat and fulfilling the answer. Like, oh, body, you just want to rest? Okay, we're gonna just go sit down, lay down, sleep. Oh, body, you need movement? Okay, I'll give you that, the right amount. I'm gonna offer a little shoulder stretch. This is gets to a really different part of the shoulder than the tractioning that we did. And sometimes it's problematic for people because of wrists, or if you have a current problem like with your bicep tendon. So this should feel like a good stretch, not an ouch. And it's very brief. So you're sitting on your butt, you've got your feet flat, hands are flat with the fingertips facing the heels. We're basically doing a reverse table or crab, sometimes it's called. And you're gonna anchor those shoulders down, keep the chin tucked, so we're not taking the head back and straining the front of the neck. Nice inhale. Exhale, raise the hips, press the ribs as high off the floor as you can, and I hope you feel that good stretch into the biceps and so on. Inhale, release. So if you're not feeling a stretch, generally it's because the ribs aren't being pressed high enough. You have to straighten the arms. And last time, and then I'm going to give us some dessert. Roll up wrists, knees to belly, and we're going to come into our reclined pigeon. Some of you might have a preference for classic pigeon pose, go for it. Otherwise, left foot flat on the floor, right ankle crosses onto the thigh, heel flexed, and I love wagging the knee. Yeah, nice extra attention to the hip. And hugging the right knee as tightly to the chest as you can, and sending it a little towards the center line. And just because we're, quote, holding the pose does not mean it's stagnant, right? So you might be pulsing a little in and out of this. Maybe you want to clasp the foot as well, like we did in that starting pose when we were laying down. And then a little side to side movement might get you that beautiful edge. Remember, if raising the leg off the floor hurts or doesn't allow you to enjoy the stretch, you can still have it planted. And of course, sending breath in there is always the most interesting part of all of this. What are you noticing? And of course, in any time switching. Invite us in one more core strengthening exercise. And it may surprise you that I refer to it as core strengthening. We're going to bring our feet flat on the floor and then walk the soles of the feet towards each other until they can connect and allow the knees to settle in a relaxed butterfly for starters. We'll turn this into a strengthening pose in a moment. But use these first couple breaths to communicate an invitation of softening. You could also use this time to work the shoulder blades in towards the spine, lift the chin up and back, etc. When you're ready, using a little belly to spine to initiate it, lift the hips a couple of inches off the floor. And literally just that, there's no goal to get high. I find that actually creates a bunch of weird tension in the hip flexors. What I'm wanting is for you to feel a bunch of tension building, in a good way, strength building, in the deep inner thigh, low glute area. Yeah, and maybe you can feel that in your pelvic floor as well. And slow, soft breath in spite of the fact that part of the body is engaged. And one can do this for like 3 to 5 minutes, but we're gonna just do it for another maybe 30 seconds. And if that's too much, come out, you can always come back in. Then you come out, you might be fine to just let the legs lengthen. Please notice if there's anything your body needs. I'm going to invite you to have one last posture before we create our resting pose, and that's the invitation for the block under the sacral triangle. And you can use the cork block, foam block, or one of the soft tie blocks, the colorful ones. I've got an extra one of those if anyone hasn't gotten to try them, curious. So bend the knees, raise the hips, and placing the block at that sacral triangle, just at the top of the crack of the butt, not the low back. And I invite you to do both poses. One is with the knees bent, and I like hanging out there first, letting my low back kind of get traction, especially if you've been gardening. This area might be feeling like it could really use a release. And if that feels great, you want to explore the other version, that's that draping of the body over the block. You straighten the legs and you just relax. When you go to do that, if your pelvis tilts down and kind of forward, move the block down the body. So you should feel like you're just being perfectly supported at the hub of your wheel. or staying here only as long as it's just fabulous. When you come out, please explore what would be really nourishing to you. Do you want to be on your side, on your belly? One of my favorite positions is to take, if you have a bolster, or at home, you could use another firm cushion, like a couch cushion or something. But you take your block at the top of the mat, and then you position the bolster with one end of it on the block. And then with your butt on the floor, you kind of recline against it. And I find this really opens the chest, the front body. I get a lot less upper back tension against the floor. Also lower back, I found I cannot lay flat on a hard surface or my low back just takes right up. And you get to choose how far or close your hips would be to the bolster. So if you're feeling too much of an angle, you can scooch away from it or whatever feels right. So everybody here in FLC, please scan and let me know if I can bring you anything. If anyone's like, oh, a blanket would make all the difference. I really could use one of those. I'd like to hear from you. We are going to invite our bodies to soften and sink. And when that happens, it's such a beautiful invitation also to our spirit. So I invite you to kind of tune in and notice if there's any part that needs more seduction. Maybe as you take your next few breaths, each one is kind of a little love note of relaxation to any part of you that's been holding on. I'm going to come around and offer either shoulder press or for people on bolster, a little touch under the neck. If you'd like me to skip you, please raise your hand now. With each exhale, it's as if your body has gotten heavier with gravity. Sinking more deeply down, down, and down. Just slowly expand your breath and your awareness in your body. Just gently break the body, perhaps rolling the wrists, ankles, swallowing, noticing if some self-massage of the temples, scalp, eyebrows might feel good. And before you choose to make your way into the river of life out there, first, thank yourself for getting to the practice. And secondly, just consider what's needed. What would create greater wholeness in your systems, physical, mental, emotional, nervous system, spiritual, all of it. What's needed? I thank you each so much for being here. It's really a pleasure. And you really did look and feel powerful and peaceful. At least from here, I felt that way most of the time. So reminder, there's no class next week, Memorial Day week. But I will see you the following week, and that's when we start our Thursday nights out at Third Mountain. That's nice, Thursdays at Third Mountain, it works. So I'll be here Tuesday mornings and then Thursday evenings starting June. Unbeing you. Thanks for tuning in.